So if you're anything like me, you like to go to train shows and dig through the $5 box. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. But what you run into is a lot of vintage cars that have horn hook couplers. This is an easy fix, and that's what I want to go over with you today. I'm going to show you how I changed over this lifelike 2-bay hopper to Kadee couplers. So hop on. Okay, so getting straight to the point here, we've got a 2-bay lifelike hopper, and of course it has horn hook couplers. It's not only just horn hook, but it's also a truck mount coupler, which is a good opportunity to show you another thing that you can do to change these over. Because you have two different types. You'll have the horn hook truck mount, and then you have the horn hook body mount. Okay? So to do these, it's just a little bit more complicated. It is one extra step, and it's not that bad. Okay, so first off is you need to remove your truck. Some of them will be screwed on, some will have a pin that is like a swedge fit, and then these, you'll have ones like these that snap in. So all you have to do is grab them here by the springs, give them a pull, and they come off. And we're going to go ahead to both sides here just so everybody's done. Okay, so the next thing you'll have to do is kind of examine here where you're going to be putting your box for your new Kadee coupler. Now these will come in with your Kadees. They'll come on a strip like this. You get caps and boxes, and then you'll have your knuckle couplers. And I'll go over the different types later in the video. Some of your freight cars will have a box here, or there won't be anything here to mount your box to, so you'll have to build that up or put something there to do that. But at this point, I'm just going to take some model glue. I've got some plastic model glue here, and I'm going to put a little bit on each side here, because this framework is actually the same width as my Kadee box. I'm going to put the open end facing out. Okay, and this is the box section, not the lid. The lid is flat. So I'm going to put the open end facing out, and I'm going to make sure that the end of it lines up with the edge of the freight car. Okay, you try to get it square. I haven't run into this problem. I feel like it's worth noting. You want to make sure that the box doesn't sit higher than the base for your truck mount, because in that kind of situation it would get in the way of your truck being able to pivot. Like I said, I've never run into that, but if just sitting here thinking about it, I think it's worth noting. Alright, so you're waiting for that to dry, which doesn't take too long depending on what type of glue you use. Another thing you could do is actually remove the horn hook from the truck mount coupler and put the knuckle coupler in its place. It works for a quick fix, but if you really want it to work well, a good thing to do is to remove this box from the coupler, or from the truck that is, and put it on the body of the car. I'm going to go ahead and just remove one axle, which is simple. You just kind of pry it out of there. These will bend out just a little bit and allow the axle to be released. Now, for this, we're not going to need this anymore. This piece right here. So I'm taking the rail cutters here. And I'm going to cut it off. Don't cut too far back, because you don't want to affect your pins where they clip into the car. Okay, you need to make sure that those don't get damaged. So as you can see, I just cut off the box that held the original horn hook. I'm going to take my axle. I'm going to put one pin in one side and then pry it up. It's back, ready to go. This glue's set up enough, I'm sure. Now, another thing when you're putting these Kadee couplers on, you want to make sure that the hose is facing the bottom of the car. Like, however the car is going to sit, it needs to go on the bottom. I put them in upside down. Fortunately, they're not hard to fix. Another thing, when you put these on, you will probably have to adjust this. Sometimes they'll get stuck on the frog points or the switch points, and you'll have to trim them. A lot of them I just simply cut off. Depends on what kind of authenticity you want on your layout. Okay, so now just gonna put this coupler in place. The lid has a lip on it. I don't know if you can see it there on the end. That lip needs to be facing the bottom of the car, okay? It won't go on this way. It'll hit the shank of the coupler. So the lip needs to be facing up. Oop. And these particular style, which is a Kadee number 148, these lids snap in. Okay? They just clip in, which is great. I love using the 148s. They're a very popular coupler for the knuckles. The shank's in the middle of the coupler itself, the knuckle itself. The boxes are easier to use. Number 5s, they are another one that can be used just about any application, but they don't have the wire springs on them that the 148s have. They come with these little boxes that go inside the Kadee box that you mount to the car, and that's your spring work, which isn't a bad thing. If you can't get a 148, a number 5 will work, but the lids don't snap on. At least I can't get them to snap on, so I always have to glue them. Okay, at this point, we're ready to put our truck back on. We have successfully changed this lifelike 2-bay hopper from horn hook to a truck mount knuckle coupler. So here's the package for a Kadee number 148. As you can see, it's a medium center set shank. If you look at the picture here, you can see where the shank of the coupler is in the center of the knuckle. Okay? And the medium stands for the length. Okay? So, for instance, this number 144 is a short underset. And so the short under is telling you how long the shank is. Okay, medium's the most common. In some applications, you're going to need either a shorter shank or a longer shank, especially working with the older vintage cars and depending on where you can mount your Kadee coupler box. The underset is talking about where the shank sits versus the knuckle. Okay, so on this one you can see an under shank means that the shank is actually sitting towards the bottom of the knuckle. So the knuckle is going to be higher. Alright, so in a situation where your box is sitting too low and you can't get your knuckles to line up, you would need an under shank. An over shank is literally basically upside down. And obviously you can't take an under shank and flip it over and use it, but I'm just trying to use it as an illustration. So the over shank would be towards the top of the knuckle. So moving on to the other side of our 2-bay hopper, I'm going to go ahead. I've already mounted up my Kadee box, and now I have a 144 undershank, short undershank knuckle coupler that I'm going to mount on this side. I have some cars that I have converted over earlier that the knuckles sit too high on them, So this would help to, I've got a medium shank on this side, and to put an a center shank on this side. To put an undershank on this side, I'd be able to use this car as an adapter to bolt them up together. Okay, so now I've got my box in place. I'm going to get me a cap here. I'm making sure that my lip is facing up at the bottom of the car. Uh-oh, dropped it. There we go. As you can see, that's what they mean by short shank. That knuckle is right up against that box. But I think it'll work just fine. So I've got my truck here. The old original box is cut off of it. I'm going to snap it on. There it is. Okay, so that's our center set knuckle coupler that we installed. Now I'm going to turn this car around and put the overset knuckle towards the tender of this locomotive and hook it up and show you the difference. Okay, as you can see there, our knuckle is actually sitting higher, much higher actually, than the knuckle that is on our locomotive. It won't even hook up, and it pulls away. It just leaves the car. Like I said, I set this car up to be an adapter car, basically, between some of the freight cars that I have, but the knuckles actually sit too high. So that's what this thing's intended for. In any other normal case, it would have number 48s or whatever coupler it would need, depending on where it's mounted or on the car itself. So that's how it's done. And as you can see, it's really not that hard to put Kadee knuckle couplers on your vintage freight cars. So just as a channel update, Mountain Build Part 2 is coming. I apologize it's been so long, but I've had a lot of other things going on the layout, and I've also got a Train Show Finds Part 3 coming up here soon too. So stay tuned to my channel. Don't forget to hit the like button on your way out. And as always, I'm Chris with the Mill Run in Western Maryland. Thank you for watching.